100 times?
Do another live stream.
200 times? 500 times?
Probably.
Who is Jose Arteaga?
Jose Arteaga is a YouTube content creator with several channels focusing on different themes.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! Thing sucks!
His main channels include travel vlogs and lifestyle content. On his travel channel, Jose Arteaga Travels.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Additionally, he runs a cooking channel and engages in other personal projects that highlight his diverse interests and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects, project, 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 projects.
Mr. Stan.
I am officially running for President of the United States. We need a leader. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. It can be wonderful if you have smart people, but we have people that are stupid. The American dream is dead, 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 dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before. The American dream. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. Bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great
Majority Leader.
Mr. Thune, no.
Hola, hola, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. Hope you guys are ready to have some fun. You know, we had a bit of a somber morning today, but...
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 45. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I enter a motion to reconsider.
Motion is entered.
All right, so it seems like we are at day number 16. Day number 16 of the government shutdown. And honestly, maybe it's because I'm out of the country. I don't live in the USA anymore, but I didn't even know the government was shut down to begin with. You know, honestly, to tell you the truth, it wasn't up until the other day when I was looking into, I don't know, just what am I going to talk about today, that I realized, oh, wait a minute, the government's shut down. Wait a minute, how long has it been shut down? What, 16 days? Oh, my gosh. So that's kind of like, you know, where we're at with all that. Bruh. And again, I haven't really seen, you know, any difference here nor there with, you know, the government being shut down, which is, you know, basically why I titled today's video, today's live stream, you know, that hopefully it's permanent this time. Hopefully, you know, again, they shut down the whole government and it just doesn't come back online. That would probably be the best thing humanly possible for all of us, you know, not just in the USA, but all over the world. But hey, what do I know, right? You know, who am I? I'm just a guy out here, you know, on the internets, making YouTube videos and, you know, talking with a fake talking horse. I'm not that fake. If I'm fake, then how can I talk? I don't know. You tell me. All right. But anywho's, so here we are, you know, welcome back to another live stream, you know, as we're going to be talking about the government shutdown, I guess, or just government ineptitude, and, you know, in general, and whether or not, you know, this really means anything for you out there in the audience or not. Now, you know, I don't think it does. It seems like, again, the government's been shut down for a while and hasn't really been affecting many people out there. But perhaps if I'm wrong, you guys can let me know about it. I know a lot of people are probably worried about the fact that, like, oh, well, you know, the government shutdown continues to happen. The military is not going to get paid. You know, and then I'm being 100% honest. Okay, before I even get started on the show, I have not been following the news. I have not been following any of this. I just know my history. This is not my first government shutdown. I also know a few things here or there. But long story short, the military is always getting paid. There's like a, I forgot where, or I mean, I forgot exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure that the military has like a special coffers, you know, they have like a special kind of like situation where they can continue paying the military forever, basically, you know what I mean, as long as there's money. And there's always money, as you guys already know, as we talked about, the money printing machines have not subsided. They're just going to continue printing money into oblivion. In fact, last week, how funny, right? Last week, I did a video, a live stream on the channel talking about, hey, I was promised a recession. And sure enough, the next day on Friday, I guess the U.S. government, the Trump somebody out there, watches my live stream, because the next day we saw a major downturn in the stock market. Not just the stock market, but in crypto and so on and so forth. Now, again, I don't know, you guys out there in the audience, you know, what you're invested in, what you guys know about any of this stuff or what have you. But long story short, a lot of people out there got liquidated. All right. And again, if you were listening to my show last week, the day before the crash, and you were listening to me and you actually paid attention to, again, how you can basically save yourself, you know, from, you know, potential downturn or, you know, all the things that are going to be happening going forward, was to purchase hard assets like gold and silver. And sure enough, you know, things like gold and silver, they were basically unaffected, as you know, other assets out there and other things, you know, were heavily affected, such as Bitcoin or what have you. So at the end of the day, as things continue to keep getting worse, there are ways that you can protect yourself. Now, right now with the whole government shutdown, I don't know about you guys, but if anything, I see it more of a positive thing. The less power or the less active the government is, the better it is for all of us out there. And so for me, hey, I hope they extend this, basically for as long as humanly possible. But I know a lot of people out there, they don't want it to be to keep going for that long because there are some issues that there are out there. There are people that do depend on the government for help. Whether it's food stamps, whether it's government assistance or what have you. I'm guessing those people are getting affected. But again, I don't really know, to tell you the truth, how anyone's really affected. Anytime that the government has been shut down, it hasn't really affected any of us, to tell you the truth. Again, if I'm wrong, if there's anyone out there listening to me right now in the audience that, can basically let me know how the government shutdown has been affecting you negatively, please let me know. But it seems like right now, again, just like every other event, it's orchestrated. This is basically a distraction, if anything, to keep you focused on this instead of what's actually going on. So to me, that's always the question. It's like, well, what is actually going on? What are they doing? What's going on in the background? While this is in the news feed. While everybody's talking about the government shutdown and freaking out about the government shutdown and all this other stuff. And I am guessing the Republicans are blaming it on the Democrats, and the Democrats are blaming it on the Republicans, and yada yada yada. The same old, same old. In fact, let me go on ahead and play this video. That I was just trying to research this a little bit on my own.
6:46 now, and today marks the 16th day of the federal government shutdown, and there has been truly little progress on Capitol Hill when it comes to reopening the government.
Right. A Republican-backed spending bill failed for the 9th time yesterday. It's expected to be voted on again today.
Yes.
That brings us to our Joe St. George. He's joining us live
That's what I showed
from
you a
Washington,
couple
D.C.
minutes
this
ago.
morning.
Joe, good morning. It's good to see you. I didn't think, I was hopeful that when we talked again that we weren't going to be talking about this, but here we are 16 days later. Can you talk about the mood on Capitol Hill this morning and what's going to be impacted the longer the shutdown goes on?
Well, I got bad news for you guys. If you're frustrated talking about this on day 15, day 16, day 17, what will you be in a month from now? I mean, and I say that because some lawmakers are telling reporters they could see this going through Thanksgiving. Now, nobody wants that, but there is this sense that this is record-breaking territory that we'll be hitting soon. Remember, the longest shutdown is 35 days. That was 2018, 2019. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says $11 billion in lost economic output was a direct result of that for federal workers, members of the military in Hampton Roads. You may be familiar with that. And now we're talking about something that would go beyond that. Democrats, Senator Tim Kaine, for instance, was asked yesterday about this, right? There's this question of, will Democrats cave? And Senator Tim Kaine said that he was traveling throughout Virginia the last several weekends, and he's been encouraged by what he's hearing, that people are really happy that Democrats are standing up for these rising health insurance premiums. So there's nothing to suggest Democrats are going to change their position anytime soon. At the same time, nothing to suggest that Republicans will. Republicans want to open up the government now, talk about health care and health care premiums later. Now to what we're always following, which are the impacts, the potential impacts of a prolonged government shutdown. And the new wild card in all of this may be low-income food assistance programs. Have another number for you. North of 800,000 families in Virginia use SNAP, use low-income food assistance programs to put food on the table. Well, now the USDA is warning states this morning that those programs, if the shutdown goes into November, they're funded now, but if it goes into November, that payment may not be coming. Essentially a warning to local food pantries, local county government services, state services, that the SNAP program may be in serious trouble come early November. In Minnesota this morning, guys, on their government website, they have stopped processing new SNAP applications. So we're watching every development of the shutdown, the impacts on Hampton Roads and families from coast to coast.
Joe, thank you so much for your time. I know we here
Yeah. So long story short, now that I heard what he just said there, and again, sometimes you forget what month we're in. Halloween, we're in October, mid-October already. Time flies when you're having fun, right? But the way this is kind of playing out, it does seem like the government is going to continue to be shut down for the next few weeks, and it's going to, whatchamacallit, seep into, or basically affect November. Now, what is in November? What does everybody celebrate in November? While we think about that, I want to give a shout out to Peter, Cecil, and Angelina. Shout out to everyone out there. I know you guys were saying hi. My apologies there. But anyway, shout out to everyone out there. But long story short, yeah, think about it. This is kind of like the perfect storm, because November is Thanksgiving. And look, I used to be poor as hell. All right. I used to, I was raised on government cheese or whatever. Right. So with that being said, think about it. A lot of families, during Thanksgiving, they actually expect, they're actually relying on, the help that they get every single month, so that they can not only put food on the table for the month, but also put that turkey on the table and Thanksgiving on the table. And I remember during Thanksgiving, around that time, the food pantries and things like that, they would oftentimes give out extra food, or give out things like turkeys and all that good stuff. So think about it. If all of a sudden the government is continued to shut down, through next month, again, just 2 weeks from now, that would put us in the beginning of November. And those payments usually come at the beginning of November. And then people are not going to be able to, again, put food on the table, let alone going into Thanksgiving. Now, again, I have no idea how these things work. The reality is that many times, when a payment or something like this happens, and for example, they don't pay out, SNAP, or they don't pay out government benefits at the beginning of the month like they usually do, because let's say a government shutdown or what have you, they would just hold on to that. And once a government, starts up again, they'll give that, they'll give those benefits out. So who knows? Like right now, again, this could all be just part of the show. Again, as you've heard it said many times, Shakespeare said this: the world is a stage and we are all merely players, right? Or something like that. So again, just with that being said, the world is a stage. This is all just a movie. This is all just a play. Unfortunately, we are watching it, and some of us are affected by what's going on, during this play or what have you. But with that said, think about that. Either the government gets opened up, by the time November shows up, or early November, and then all of a sudden, when the government's reopened, they might pick the Democrats, I guess, as the good guys, or the Republicans as the good guys, because hey, you guys were able to pull it through and figure it out right before the month of November hit, yada, yada, yada. And so then obviously there's going to be a lot of fanfare coming with that. Or what I suspect, after listening to that guy, again, who knows? We'll find out in a few weeks. But what I'm suspecting it could happen is that the government is going to continue to be shut down through the beginning of November. And then at some point in November, it'll reopen again, and it'll reopen up in time, just in perfect time, for people to get their benefits and, get all that stuff from the food pantry, so that they can celebrate Thanksgiving. And then they'll be very thankful of the fact that the government reopened up just in time. So again, right now, it's a same old that we've, the same playbook, the same movie that we've seen multiple times. The government, creates a problem. Okay. And once everybody is, up to their necks, with that problem, then all of a sudden they show up with the solution. So again, the reason they bring up a problem or create a problem is so that they can offer you guys a solution. So, again, this is what it seems like, is happening. It seems like this is just par for the course, that they're just creating a situation, they're creating a disaster, so that they can offer the solution, and then they can come to the rescue. Who, again, it could be Trump and the Republicans, or the Democrats. I don't know. I don't care. We'll find out soon enough. But I mean, again, this is all I see. I just see a lot more of the same old, a lot of political play, everything that's been happening, for a while now at this point. Nobody believes anything. Everybody is very skeptical of everything. And this is probably no different. Now, obviously, we know that there's a lot of people out there that are on one side or the other. Shout out to Peter out there. Because look, for example, Peter said something earlier in the chat. He said, Trump needs to be impeached. Okay, sure. And replaced by who? That's the question. Like, okay, replaced by who? Like, I don't, that's the thing. I mean, to me, it's like, I totally understand, when Biden was president, oh, Biden needs to be impeached. Okay. And replaced by who? Who are you going to put Kamala Harris in there? Same thing as right now, Trump's going to get impeached. Who are we going to put in there? Who, I don't even know what's the vice president's name. I forgot that guy's name. The vice president, or some other Republican or some other lizard folk, or some other, I mean, think about it. I mean, like that's the thing. It's like they create these scenarios and basically make you feel helpless because, well, the reality is that for most people, they are helpless. It doesn't really matter who's in power. They're going to continue destroying everything. I mean, they're going to continue, bringing the system down. Again, I live out here in Mexico. I am sure some of you guys follow other YouTubers that probably live in other parts of the world. And if you have traveled other parts of the world, again, if you've been outside of the USA, or again, like I said, you watch YouTube videos or you see other people like me or what have you that live in other countries and they show you how other countries work. I mean, come on, what I mean? Like what's going on in the USA is insane compared to what's happening in other countries. So again, look, I know there's all countries that got problems, okay? Whether it's Mexico where I'm at, or China, or Russia, or Canada, or whatever. All countries have problems. But with that being said, most of us are fully aware that, there are countries out there that are building bridges, that are building better roads, that are building high-speed trains, that are, building the infrastructure. They're doing all kinds of things in order to, again, better the lives of the citizens or, just make the country better. Again, just fixing the infrastructure. So, like in the case of China, for example, so they can, so they can, have their economy function even stronger, okay? And so on and so forth. Here in Mexico, they're also building bridges and roads and doing all kinds of things. Again, even though there's corruption, even though there's all kinds of things always going on, the reality is that, there are many countries out there in the world that are going in one direction. Doesn't matter how much corruption and how much horribleness is going, again, they're building up. And in the USA, it seems like they're building down. I mean, honestly, again, I'm asking you guys because I don't live in the USA anymore, so I'm not 100% fully well-versed on everything going on over there, which is on purpose, by the way. But one of the things I wanted to ask you guys out there, hopefully maybe someone has an answer, but, what kind of new infrastructure projects are on deck in the USA? Are they building any new bridges or building any new roads or infrastructure or trains or whatever? Are they doing anything positive for you guys? Are they, whenever there's like some sort of a natural disaster, are they using that as an opportunity to help you guys, fix everything up or what? What exactly is going on out there? Because from my understanding, from my point of view, it seems that as each day goes on, it's like they are literally destroying the country from within. And this is all just part of that. And, I was watching some other video unrelated to, what we're talking about right now, but they were just talking about like, what the U.S. government has been doing recently in the last several months, and so on and so forth. And again, talking about when Biden was president, when Trump was president, but, just right now Trump is president, so whatever. But long story short, things that they're doing. And like right now, the U.S. government is doing things like they are buying interest in companies out there. So normally, how the system works these days, with like the stock market and things like that. Again, that's how a lot of people gauge the health of the economy. They'll look at the stock market. They're not looking at, how much they're actually spending, which is, what they should be looking at, right? Or how little they, or how little their money goes these days as opposed to before. Instead of looking like actual real things that they're tangible, that are affecting their daily lives. A lot of people will look at like the stock market and the untangible stock market. That's what they look at as the healthy sign or unhealthy sign of an economy, right? So in the U.S., what's been going on for decades, okay, is the fact that, again, the economy has been basically on a downturn. It's just been tanking, for a long, long time now. This is nothing new. In fact, a lot of people can argue that during COVID, when they did COVID, was because everything was just going down so fast in a free fall that they created COVID in order to kind of like put everything at a freeze, and if anything, freeze other countries and affect other countries so that basically they can kind of get back, things in order. Now, again, once COVID was over and the years have gone by, I can't believe it's already been 5 years. But anyways, once all that was dealt with, guess what? We were back to square one. We were back to, doing the same old, and, continuing to spiral downward out of control. So, for the longest time, what the government has been doing with a lot of the money printing is that, they'll print money. Again, I explained this further in last week's show, but long story short, the Federal Reserve prints money. They lend that money out to the federal government, and then that money that the federal government gets, they use it to keep the government afloat, okay, to pay the bills. But what has been going on recently in past years and decades is that they've been using a lot of that money that they've been printing out. In fact, this has been going on since 2007, 2008. Okay, it's been going on before that, but it really, really, started to hit hard in 2007, 2008 after that economic crash that the U.S. had, and everybody got bailed out. The QE, remember quantitative easing? Okay, quantitative easing, QE, whatever, that's never ended. Never ended. It's been going on since then. It's only gotten worse and worse and worse, especially during COVID. It got really bad. But with that said, what they do is that they'll print money, they'll get that same money, and then the government buys stocks. Okay, they'll go on ahead and they'll buy Apple, Amazon, Facebook, whatever stock is out there. All right. They'll buy bonds, treasuries, all these things. And that's how they keep everything afloat. So again, think about it. The U.S. government takes out a loan, okay, from a Federal Reserve, okay, and that loan with interest is what they use to buy the stock market, okay, to keep it afloat. And that's why, again, as they print money, the more money they print, the higher the stock market continues to go. All right. So that's been, kind of like the playbook, for a while now, for over a decade, maybe longer than a decade, 2 decades, right? Give or take. And very recently, again, in the last couple weeks or months, Trump or his administration or what have you, they said, okay, we're now gonna upgrade that. We're gonna move further from that, and now what we're gonna do, instead of just buying stocks or having some sort of shares in the company, we're actually gonna do is that we're actually gonna buy into the company. So now what they've been doing is that they've been buying. Again, this is a strategic, the strategy that they're using going forward is that what they're going to start doing, and they're already starting to do it, is that now they're going to outright just purchase, portions of companies like Intel or Nvidia or, again, Amazon and yada, yada, yada. And so, well, what does that mean? Again, one thing is, buying shares or holding on to shares or helping prop up these companies, okay? For obvious reasons, because again, we already know most of these companies are all government run or government related, right? But now they've actually said, in order for us, this is what the U.S. government said, in order for them to keep up with China, okay, the only way that they can do that is that they got to follow China's model. And what does China do? What does any of these communist countries do? Well, they just basically take full control of these companies. That's it. Okay. Or they just run those companies outright. So that is the direction that the USA is moving now. Okay. They're already doing it. They've already announced it. They said that this is the only way that they can compete. Okay. Going forward, especially against China, is that they're going to straight up, buy into these companies. And again, think about it. One thing is being just a passive investor. And another thing is like, okay, wait a minute, I own 10%, okay, of the company. Wait a minute, I own 25% of the company. So once you own part of the company, well, that means that you're also, your vote, it also means that you're also very influential in what that company does. So think about it. A lot of these private companies in the USA, which again, we already know that the government has their foot in there. Now going forward, well, now that the government really does have their foot in the, in the company. And again, we can, if people wonder what can happen, because of something like this, just look at China. I mean, look at how China basically, owns all of their companies, communism, right? And so they own their companies. And like, look, for example, remember Alibaba and that guy, he had the huge company. Alibaba is a Chinese version of Amazon. And, the Alibaba guy just started doing things that, were not in favor, with the Chinese government. And they basically said, hey, listen, man, we own you. We own the company. You want to stay alive? Shut the hell up. That's it. And so don't you kind of already see that happening? I mean, think about it. Look at Elon Musk right now and his companies, all right? Whether it's Tesla or Starlink or the rocket thing or X or, Twitter or whatever it is. Now think about the government actually owning part of those companies. Now, again, a lot of people can argue that the government already does own some of these companies like Tesla, Starlink, or what's the rocket one? I keep forgetting the one with the rockets, SpaceX. You know what I mean? They already own part of these, but they don't own them outright. Again, SpaceX, Tesla, these companies. Again, there's other companies out there that do the same thing, okay? But they are basically kept afloat, okay? Not just because of the shares that are being bought by the government, but also they're subsidized by the government. You got to remember that the government subsidizes, okay, these, again, Tesla, and, a lot of these other major companies out there. So they're moving from subsidizing, okay, to straight up owning, okay, these companies. All right. And that's the direction they're moving in. They already passed the bills. They already passed the law. It's already happening. It's it. You know what I mean? They've already announced it. And this has been in the talks for a long time now. For years, they've been talking about this and they've been moving in that direction. But the thing about Trump being president, ever since he became president is that, believe it or not, a lot of these talking points that, the NWO, has had, on the board for a long time, he's been implementing a lot of these things. Okay. Now, again, I don't want to leave Biden behind or any other, president behind because everybody played a part, just like Biden played their part, just like Trump did his part the first time he got elected, just like Obama did his thing, just like Bush, just like Clinton, and I can go on and on. All right. So that's the thing, right now, we're seeing more and more of that. And, right now with like the government being shut down, it really shows you as well, how basically not needed the government is, really in our daily lives. A lot of people are like, always complain about the fact that like, oh, you got to pay your taxes because if you don't pay your taxes, who's going to fix the roads? First of all, nobody's fixing the roads. Okay, no matter how many taxes you're paying. Again, I don't know how things are in the USA these days, but I remember a long time ago, companies like Pizza Hut, or actually not Pizza Hut, Domino's Pizza. I remember Domino's Pizza, they used to go on ahead and they used to fill out potholes. Okay, and they would fill out the pothole and they would put like the Domino's Pizza logo on the pothole that they fixed, for advertisement, just to show you. And the reason that they were doing that was basically is because, their own Domino's drivers, their cars were getting demolished because of all the potholes and the horrible streets. So Domino's Pizza said, you know what, we can go on ahead and fix the roads. The community will love us. This will be great publicity. And at the same time, we can just slap our, Domino's Pizza logo on top of the pothole, or, the pothole that we fixed. And so, and I could go on and on, how inept the government is, in many cases, for example, if you are, a charity worker out there and you want to give food away to the homeless or you want to give food away to people in need, many times the government is only there to shut you down. You know, the government's not there to help you. You know, they're not there to help you distribute. They're not there to help you, with those people or anything. No, they're just there to come out there and shut you down and let you know how you can't be giving food away and how dare you and where's your permit and here's a fine and you're probably going to go to jail because you fed some homeless people on the street. And I could go on and on. You know what I mean? All the ineptitudes of the actual government. And, as the government keeps getting bigger and bigger, because don't get it twisted, again, under Trump, under many Republicans, they always promise a smaller government. But what ends up happening? We got an even bigger government. And this is same old. The same old movie that we've seen countless times is continuing to happen over and over again. Okay. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, how much do we actually really need the government? The government seems to just be there to basically make our lives more miserable. So, the fact that the government's shut down and not around is actually, a good thing, I guess. You know what I mean? Because, well, they're not around to, nickel and dime you and keep harassing you, at least for the time being. But like I was saying earlier, from when that news report was saying, it seems like again, if I was a betting man, which I am, I'm trying not to, but I really honestly do think that they're going to keep extending this, and it's going to be a topic of discussion going into November, and it's going to be a major topic of discussion, as November hits, especially if they haven't fixed this situation, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving. Think about it. You know what I mean? Think about of all the months, this could be, again, anyone that relies on government help, obviously anything like this, it doesn't matter what month it happens. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's the last thing you want is for all of a sudden, the government not to be able to give you, the things that you rely on, to put food on the table or, to help little Johnny or little Susan, get to school or whatever it is, right? But it really hurts. It really makes an impact when it happens at the end of the year, again, around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. I mean, you can't make this shit up. You know what I mean? It's almost as if they wrote a script, and, they're just using this for maximum impact, in my own opinion. But what do I know? All right. So, Peter says there is talk about increasing energy for data centers. So yeah, going back to these companies out there, so right now the USA is dealing with tons of disasters. So all these major companies that are building these data centers, okay, all across the country, whether it's Google, mainly Google, but whether it's Google or Facebook or Apple or whatever, or Intel or Nvidia, they're building bigger and bigger data centers each and every day. And those data centers are, are for one thing only, okay? I don't know if you know this, but most of those data centers are for artificial intelligence. And so right now, this is a real thing, Peter. I'm glad you brought that up. There are many communities across the country right now in which they built these data centers really close by, communities, cities, or what have you. And those data centers are basically demanding so much energy, so much water, so much, resources that, again, they're now all of a sudden the people that live there in that area are without water, without electricity. They're going through brownouts. They don't have water sometimes, or dirty water. A lot of their services, are basically falling apart, and so on and so forth. And it's because they're showing priority to these corporations and their data centers, okay, that are here to basically create the matrix, right? By the way, how crazy is it that, look at us where we are right now, okay, in this, and, in the future, we're in 2025 going into 2026, we're 1/4 of the way into the century. Yeah, that's right. The first quarter, okay, of the century is already over. And here we are, we're still not sure if it's if we are in the Matrix or if we are in Terminator or worse, both. I mean, think about it. Think about the Terminator in the Matrix. Oh my God. So, I mean, right now it's getting really dicey really quickly. in certain parts of the world, not every part of the world. Again, I'm out here in Mexico. I'm not worried about no robots. I'm not worried about no AI. You know, I'm worried about other things. You know what I mean? I'm worried about normal, regular things, okay, that affect most people around the world. So, you know, that's something that I was talking to you guys about too in other videos before, as to, you know, when this change really starts to take place, because it's already going on, all right? Don't get it twisted. I mean, for anyone out there that is not aware, you know, we're right in the middle of it, all right? We're in the middle of the transition. We're right in the middle of the change. It's happening, all right? It's happening, all right? You know, it's like, it's happening, you know? We're in the middle of it. But with that said, you know what I mean? As this, you know, transition happens, you know, in the USA, in Canada, and certain parts of Europe, and China, and so on and so forth, you know, there are going to be other parts of the world that are just not affected by it at all. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know, most of Latin America, most of Africa, many parts of Asia, some parts of Eastern Europe or whatever. I mean, there are many parts of the world where this is not affecting anyone at all. But there are parts of the world where, again, you already see the digital prison, those invisible digital walls, you know, basically already surrounding you. You know, for many of you guys, you know, trying to just get out of the country, you guys are quickly realizing that that's probably not going to be an option for much longer. You know, you might not be able to leave at some point. I mean, it's already getting pretty close to that. So definitely interesting times, you know, to be alive for sure. You know what I mean? Again, you know, one thing is being in the middle of dystopia, you know, meaning being in the middle of China or the USA right now, or, you know, being in another country and looking at what's going on from the outside looking in. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at, you know, many parts of the world turning into dystopia, or already turned into that. And I'm just looking, you know, from the outside in. You know, it's kind of crazy, you know, seeing, you know, so many parts of the world turning into Blade Runner, or turning into the Hunger Games, or, you know, again, Terminator, Matrix, whatever. And yet, you know, being in a part of the world where, you know, most of that stuff's not even affecting you at all. It's very, very interesting to see it from at least my perspective. And I'm sure some of you guys' perspectives out there as well. We got Chef Boy out there. Shout out to you, brother. Chef Boy says the entrepreneurs create text. Sorry, the entrepreneurs create tech that the common man will never be able to have. The way they get rich is through hard work and talent. The government doesn't create crap. I mean, yes and no. You know, the private sector does create a lot of cool things, but let's not forget, you know what I mean? Like, for example, who created the internet? Bueller, anybody out there? Come on. If you don't know this, you should know this. The CIA created, okay, the internet. What about Bitcoin? You know, a lot of people, you know, like, oh, Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever, you know. Remember, I'm big into crypto, you know, not so much these days, you know, for obvious reasons. But again, you know, why am I not so big on it these days? Well, because, you know, at this point, it's pretty obvious that we know who created it as well. Again, especially now with Trump, with the Genius Act and everything that they're pushing forward, things that I was envisioning years ago, a long time ago, never really thought that it could happen. You know, just thinking to myself in my, you know, drunken stupors or whatever, right? Or drug-induced stupors. But sure enough, you know what I mean? Here we are. You know what I mean? It's actually happening, right? And it is pretty incredible to see. But yeah, look, long story short, you know what I mean? You got to remember that, you know, there are, you know, the government is involved in a lot of this stuff as well, especially the CIA or what have you. And, you know, this is no different, you know, going forward. So right now, obviously, you know what I mean, who are the ones that are really behind a lot of this stuff, you know? So, anyways, all right. So, Sergio says we're heading into Mad Max. Sure. I mean, in some areas are already Mad Max. But yeah, I agree with you, Sergio. Shout out to you, brother. Yeah, but that's what it's looking like. Dude's on acid. Who's on man? Where? Acid? Where's the acid? I got the acid. I took 3 stamps right now. Oh, okay. Oh, so Lambo took all the hits of acid, and all this right now that's going on is just Lambo's acid dream. So we are all inside of Lambo's acid reality. All right, so that's where we are right now. So no wonder everything's all doesn't make sense and it's all over the place. So But yeah, long story short, I mean, like, I know you. I mean, you're 100% right, Chef. Chef Boy. There are many instances and many cases as to where there are inventors out there, throughout the decades that have invented, basically free power. I'm sorry, not free power, free energy. Okay, there is free energy out there. People don't know this, but I don't know if you heard of this guy named Tesla, the original Tesla, not the Cybertruck dude. But the original Tesla guy, he invented free energy, and all that information was lost, quote unquote, lost, right? And fast forward into like the 80s, in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of people that were creating steam engines. They were better than the motorized engines. They were creating free energy things. Long story short, and all these other things. And long story short, all these people that were creating these things, gone, 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 gone. Rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. But what's been actually happening since the internet, okay, in the last like decade especially, we've actually been seeing a lot of people out there recreating a lot of this stuff, putting it on the internet, and even if you kill the guy, unalive him or whatever it is, right? It's still out there. The information is out there. It's replicated. And and it's just at this point, once even though the CIA invented the internet to keep us all again in our digital prison, it's basically escape them. Okay, they cannot control the internet, no matter what they make you think. All right, the only way that they can really control the internet is if they shut it off. But if they shut off the internet, well, then they're not in control anymore because they can't control the narrative and they can't control so many things that are going on right now. So again, it's like a double-edged sword to them. They know that they need the internet and technology in order to push us into, this dystopian future, but they also know that they got to keep the lights on. And that's the thing too that a lot of people just don't realize. Sure, digital currency, a digital world, the Matrix, the freaking AI robots, the Terminator, all that stuff is great, wonderful. Sure, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be dystopia. It's gonna be terrible and horrible. But the one thing that people, for whatever reason, just don't, put into the calculation is that, well, what if somebody pulls the plug? What if we don't have internet? What if we don't have electricity? How's that going to work? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. When you're outside of the USA, okay, and you've actually traveled or been to places where they don't have electricity, they don't have internet, or at least it's not reliable, you quickly see how everything just, basically falls. It folds, okay, like a cheap paper plate, okay, like a paper dragon, right? So that's the thing. A lot of people are just not, they're being led by fear more than anything else. They're not using their brains, unfortunately, and because, again, that's how they planned it, right? They made you guys helpless. They made a lot of us, dumb, which is why we've had to re-educate ourselves. They put us in this position on purpose, okay? So they can have ultimate control. But, at the end of the day, that means, again, the more that they try to control, well, the more that they got to do on their end to keep that control. And, that's the way I look at it. Are they going to be able to really keep the lights on, for this dystopian future that they're trying to create? Probably not. I mean, they have trouble trying to keep the lights on or the internet on these days, in many places. I mean, imagine when they were really trying to, hey, we're going to create this real digital prison for everybody on the planet. Yeah, okay. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? Good luck with that. Again, if you read any history book, again, I know there's so much history and so much that we don't know about our past. But look, long story short, the whole idea of taking over the world is nothing new. It's been going on for a very, very long time. And any time that any group or any individual out there has been trying to take over the world, it fails every time, okay? And, right now is no different. Right now, it's not that the U.S. is in control. There are other entities that control the U.S. There are other entities out there that control other parts of the world, and they're trying to just really control everybody and control everything. But are they really going to be able to? Probably not. Probably not. They're going to try, obviously, because they're all in power and they want to remain in power forever. Are they going to be able to remain in power forever? Probably not. Because as the shit starts to really hit the fan, which we're already starting to see the cracks all over the place. You know, the cracks in the dam are everywhere. Okay, right now it's basically, you're seeing the cracks in the dam. What are you going to do? Are you going to just stand there like an idiot, or are you going to go seek shelter? Okay, so because once a dam breaks, that's it, man. You know, it's over for everybody in one shape, form, or another. Unless you're in high ground and you've, you know, figured out an escape. And so for a lot of people, yeah, they're just staring at the dam and hoping that the dam doesn't crack, while at the same time wishing that the dam breaks. So, but they're standing right in front of the dam. I mean, so that's kind of like where we're at right now. And it is very interesting to kind of like see it all play out. And again, we're only like, to me, it's like we're only at the beginning of this whole destruction. And again, in order for them to usher in the brand new future, you know, they're usher in all these things, you know, that they're always talking about, they have to break it all down. They have to destroy everything and bring everybody to their knees, okay, in order for them to really usher it all in. Because think about it. If they're trying to control everybody on the planet, okay, you know, they, first of all, they got to get everybody even, okay? So what would be easier, you know, for them to do, the people in power, you know, to basically get the few people that are rich. I'm talking about, by the way, you, me, any one of us right now watching this, we're rich compared to the 7 other billion people out there on the planet, okay? So long story short, what would be easier, to bring 7 billion people up to making $30,000 a year, you know, give or take, or to just bring everybody down, no matter what your income level is, just bring it all the way down to where the 7 billion are. So that's what they're really doing. That's part of the plan. Now, you know, is everybody on the same page? You know, are all countries on the same page? Not really. You know what I mean? Because again, you know, some people, some countries out there, like, again, they're looking at what's going on and they're like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to play along. You know, we're going to go on ahead and destroy society, but you do it first. Okay. We're going to go on ahead and do it. But yeah, you go on ahead and do it first. We'll follow. You know, and there's many countries that have been, you know, again, devastated for decades and decades. And now they're moving on up. And do you think they want to go back down? No, they don't. You know what I mean? And so, and those countries, you know, the people have a lot more power than they do in, like, for example, in the USA. In the USA, the people don't have any power. You know, the USA, the people can very easily, you know, outnumber the people in power and just take control. But they don't. They can't. Everybody's dumbed down. And not just dumbed down, but they've all been basically ground to a nub. Okay, most of you guys out there don't even have energy, you know, to finish your day, let alone, you know, go against the government or go against, you know, the people in power. So that's how they basically control everybody. It's just that they, you know, they keep you exhausted, they keep you in fear, they keep you in a constant state, okay, of you know, fight or flight. And so then obviously, you know, you're never, you know, gonna go after, you know, who's actually creating your horrible life. In fact, you know, right now most people are just fighting with each other. You know, it's as simple as that. Because again, look, I don't want to pick on you, Peter. Shout out to Peter. All right, shout out to Peter out there. But I'm picking on you just for a quick reason, because again, you decided to volunteer your information, you know, in the chat. But, you know, again, the whole idea of right now, he simply said, oh, we need to impeach Trump. Or, you know, back when Biden was president, people was like, oh, we need to impeach Biden. Okay. How's that going to solve anything? Like, literally, what is that going to solve? What is that going to fix? You know, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, in order for us, the people, you know, really to do any damage, you know, to really be able to do anything, you know, we got to like unite, okay, and go against the big bad people that are basically making our lives miserable. But if we are basically pointing fingers at each other and fighting amongst each other, well, then, you know, we're not paying attention to the ones that are really effing up our lives. In fact, you know, instead of blaming the people that are really effing up our lives, you know, what are we doing now? We're just going ahead and we're going to blame this other group. We're going to blame these people that voted for that guy. We're going to blame these people that did this. We're going to blame that, instead of, you know, uniting, Okay, this is another thing I love about Mexico or other countries out there. You know, they know that their governments are corrupt and inept and horrible, and they don't. I mean, even though there's infighting, obviously there's politics, you know, there's all this other stuff, but for most part, you know, most people just they know how to unite because they've had to unite multiple times over for many reasons. Again, in the last video that I was doing on my other channel earlier today, we were just talking about, you know, what's happening out here in Mexico with like the flooding and, you know, a lot of natural disasters. And so, you know, the people have not been able to rely on the government. And so they just, you know, been just, again, fixing it themselves, you know, just dealing with it themselves. And so in a country like the US, a lot of people just don't have the ability to do that or the want or the desire to do something like that. You know, most people are either infighting or they rely on a government or they rely on some entity out there in order for them to provide. All right. And so now, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, you know, what really, you know, why do most people just sit there staring at the dam, you know, as the cracks keep forming in the dam right before it breaks? It's because they don't know anything else to do. Most people don't know anything else. Most people only know how to cash that government check, only know how to, again, get those government benefits. They only know the help that they get from the government and so on and so forth. Because again, they can't even rely on a job these days anymore. You know, how many jobs do you need, you know, just to maintain your bills, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, you know, we're seeing the destruction of the USA in real time, and it is kind of nuts to see it all play out. And, you know, this whole government shutdown thing is just, you know, par for the course. You know, again, obviously, you know, when Biden was president, you know, we basically went 4 years without a president. Okay, now we have, you know, Senor Trump in there, you know, Senor, you know, whatchamacallit, you know, the U.S. version of, man, what's that guy's name from North Korea? But whatever. Anyways, you know, we got our own tyrannical guy in power, and it hasn't, you know, again, and the government shut down and everything. And it's really the only thing that's going on is that every single day, life keeps getting worse and worse and worse for everybody out there. Never any better. In fact, there's nothing on the horizon that any one of us can look forward to as to, oh, things are going to get better. Oh, things are going to get better next year. Things are going to get better in 2 years. Things are going to get better when Trump is out of power. Is it really? Are you sure? Are you sure about that? You know what I mean? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? You know that meme? You sure about that? You know? And that's the thing. It's like they just keep you in a constant state of fear, constant state of anxiety, constant state of, you know, going crazy. And, you know, while you're going crazy fighting with your neighbor over toilet paper, you know, they're just robbing you blind. You know, they're basically destroying the country. You know, they're basically, you know, following their playbook, following their script, okay, for whatever it is that they got planned going forward. I know a lot of people out there like, oh, Agenda 2030 or Agenda. Look, listen, man, like, none of this is new, okay? I mean, I can literally show you, maybe I can find, you know, maybe I can find it here. You know, it's like I got so many things on my computer. Maybe I can find it. While I look at, but yeah, I just want to show you a quick image here, you know, to just show you like how long, you know, this has really been going on, you know, this is nothing new here, as to, you know, a lot of the plans that they have, you know, for all of us, all right, or a lot of the plans that they have, you know, going forward, you know, for, you know, the planet really, you know what I mean, but for the U.S. mainly, let me see, man. I know I got it here somewhere, but yeah, what I'm looking for is actually a magazine from, I want to say, like, there it is, from the 1980s or something like that. And here we go. Look at this. Check this out. And let me get my face out of the way. Oh, look at that. All right. And can you see it there completely? Hold on. So look what it says right there. It's like, can Britain keep booming? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, anyways, The Economist. Okay, so this is The Economist from January 9th, 1988. Okay. And look at it right there. It says, get ready for a world currency. 2018, you know, on the coin. You see the coin right there. Okay, you see? You know, again, we're right there. Okay. And the Phoenix standing over burning money. And again, basically, it's like you're getting rid of cash, going into digital. Again, this is in 1988. I mean, the internet wasn't even around, for crying out loud. but yet they already had the playbook. You know, they already had their, you know, what they were going to do. All right. They already had their script. Again, the thing is that, you know, for a lot of people out there, you know, don't realize, you know, how the people in power actually work. You know, they work with decades in advance. You know what I mean? They're, you know, they're planning things out decades in advance, or, you know, even centuries in advance. And that's the thing. You know what I mean? They got the money, the power, the structure, the everything to just, you know, watch it all play out. You know, most of us don't even have 5 minutes, you know, of time. These people got, you know, years, decades, centuries of time. So long story short, you know what I mean? Way back, even before the internet, you know, obviously before the internet, you know, there was no semblance or even an idea of digital money, even though we had computers and they were already, you know, putting money on a computer screen. It was still, you know, we were back in 1988, we were still with the black screen with the green letters. You remember those computers, you know, or the orange letters? You know, remember the black screen with the orange letters? I mean, I think we barely got Windows back then. I don't know. But again, already, you know, they already knew where they wanted to go, what they were trying to do. So when I see like, oh, the Agenda 2030 or the Agenda this or the New World Order, or not the New World Order, sorry, the Great Reset or whatever it is, I'm like, bro, come on. Are you new here? Did you just like pop in to the movie? You know what I mean? Like, this has been in play for a very, very long time. And what we're actually seeing now is that we're starting to see, you know, the beginning, okay, the end stages of the old system, the beginning stages of the new system, and we're right in the middle of that transition as we speak. Again, as we spoke about the Genius Act that was passed, that's basically it. We're looking at it right there, which is what? Again, we're going to go on ahead and we're going to back the dollar, okay? Not by gold, but we're going to back the dollar by a cryptocurrency that is backed by the dollar. What? Doesn't even make any sense. Exactly. It doesn't have to make sense, okay? So that's the thing too. A lot of people always get, you know, they get tripped up on all these things like, oh, but that doesn't make sense, Jose. Listen, bro, like it doesn't have to make sense to you, man. As long as it makes sense to them and they can implement it and put it into play, which they are and they have been, that's all that matters, man. A lot of people are, you know, always complain about the system being broken. You know, the system needs to be fixed. Like, no, what are you talking about? The system is working perfectly. The system, okay, is working as it was designed. Everything is by design. Everything, again, it's a script, okay? It's, you know, they already have a plan. Everything is working according to plan. Everything is going perfectly. Everything is working exactly as they planned it out a long time ago. And again, I'm the ultimate optimist out there, and I'm always thinking that, again, we humans, we the people will prevail, and that they're not going to really be able to, you know, continue this this stranglehold on all of us. But I mean, come on, we got to be serious, you know. We got to, you know, the reality of what the real world that we live in right now. I mean, depending on where you live, will depend on how optimistic you can actually be. Like I said, I you know, I live in an area where I'm only a stone's throw away from villages that don't even have, you know, electricity, internet, whatever. You know, we got Mayans out here, okay? The Spanish couldn't even conquer them, okay? So, long story short, I mean, there are many parts of the world that are very similar to where I live right now. And sure, it might not be comfortable, but it's going to be a lot more comfortable, you know, living out here in the jungle, you know, with, you know, without technology, than it's going to be living in the dystopian Hunger Games, Blade Runner. What's the other movie that you guys were mentioning in there? What was it? Mad Max, you know, scenario that you guys are all going to be living in. Are you kidding me? You know? So at least I got my freedom out here. You know, for now, right? For now. Knock on wood. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know what I mean? There's just so much to really look into that, you know, many people always just miss because they don't look at the big picture. You know, many people are just kind of like stuck in their, you know, little hole of, you know, where they're at right now. It's really hard to see a lot of these perspectives while you're right in the middle of the hurricane. You know, for a lot of you guys that have never left the USA and you're stuck in the USA or Canada, wherever you're at, you know, you're in the middle of the eye of the hurricane. You know, you don't see any, any bright futures ahead or anything like that. You don't see anything, or it's hard for you to even see or even contemplate or even fathom a world in which you're not in controlled by these entities. What did you do to your horse friend? No, I didn't do anything to him. He basically he does a lot of drugs. He's not a good horse. He's always out there with the ladies of the night. And long story short, he's just done one too many things out there. He's slept with one too many mains, and he's done a lot of heavy drugs and things like that. It's a miracle he's alive. But actually, what he did is that don't tell him. I gotta tell him, Lambo. I'm sorry, I gotta tell him. All right, they asked. What actually Lambo did, this guy's such a drug addict. He actually, about a year ago, he went on ahead and he cut off his legs, okay? And he sold them to Elmer's Glue Factory, okay? So that he can buy more drugs. So, hey, that's my private, whatever, man. Anyway, so, but, I mean, we got him in a little wheelchair here. This is my old chair, so he has, we can kind of like push him around and stuff. So he's all right. Don't worry about it. Shout out to Lambo. Anyways, so where was it? Oh yeah, there it is. But yeah, okay. So let me see. Let me read some more chats before we wrap this bad boy up. Do you think Mexico will be like the USA in 30 years? I mean, yes. Probably. I guess. I don't know. It just depends. That's there's a lot to discuss there. Hold on a second. Oh, wrong button. I'm back. Okay. Sorry. Anyways, but yeah, the thing is like, yes, of course, I see, many countries moving in the direction as the U.S., Canada, whatever. But also one of the things that I see, I was predicting this a while ago, but I'm actually seeing it happen and play out, is that as certain parts of the world are really turning into dystopia, they're really turning into the Matrix, the Blade Runner, all that stuff. Well, other countries that are not that far along, they see what's going on in China, in the US, and in Europe, and they look at that like a what's the word I'm looking for? As a cautionary tale. So right now, here in Mexico, they're saying things like, hey, we're going to probably put digital cash, and we want to do a digital ID and things like that. And most of the Mexican people, the majority of them, have been flat out, not just rejecting it, but pushing back very, very hard. And again, living out here, again, I talk about it more on my other channel. Living out here, you get to see how, well, this is what a country looks like that has the power to the people, and where they really function outside the government, and they're just doing their own thing, and the government really doesn't represent much out here. So as the U.S. and all these other first world dystopias continue to develop, well, countries like Mexico are going to be seeing that, looking at again all the horrible negative effects that are happening over there, and they're like, oh, we don't want that here. So in order for us to not have that here, we got to make sure that we got to have cash. But we got to make sure not to give the government more power. We got to make sure that we got to do this. We got to make sure we got to do that. The same thing that's always happened through history. Okay. So again, the whole world cannot be converted overnight. It's going to happen in some areas first, like you're seeing, again, the USA, Canada, Europe, China, all these areas, it's already happening. And then other countries that are surrounding it, well, they see, they already see what's going on, and they're preparing accordingly. I mean, look at a place like India, for example. India is like Mexico, only with 10 times the population. And, they want to implement all those things. They want to make India into China. But have you been to India? Have you seen any videos on India? Like they couldn't be any further away from that. In fact, Africa might be closer, than India, into getting into that dystopian future. But that's the thing. I mean, I think that as all this continues to develop, and we the people around the world get to see, the negative effects, that are taking place in all these countries. Well, obviously, most other countries are going to completely reject it, especially once these things are in play. And again, at this point, we're right in the middle of it. So you got to remember, like, for example, here in Mexico, there's a lot of Americans and Canadians that have moved here. And again, if you asked a typical Mexican like 7 years ago, when I would talk to a typical Mexican like 7 years ago about why I moved to Mexico, again, I moved to Mexico because I'm running away from dystopia. I want a better quality of life. I want all these things. Most Mexicans were looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Mexico is the one that's, a backwards shithole, not the USA. But fast forward to where we are today, most Mexicans know, most Mexicans don't even want to go to the USA. They know fully well what's going on out there, or China or any of these places, and obviously they're learning from the mistakes. So they're learning from, what's going on over there. And, in order for these things to be implemented, they have to be implemented from the governmental level. They have to be implemented from a top and then distributed to the people. But you got to remember, we're in a country like Mexico where the government has very little power. You got to remember the cartels, are fighting for power. If in many cases they sometimes have more power than the government. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like for that kind of situation to, materialize out here, no. I sincerely doubt it. Because like I said, as they're trying to push some things forward here, I mean, the people are just straight up not only rejecting it, but they already got their solution and they're just moving forward with that. The government's saying, hey, we're going to start digital. The people are already, before the government even finishes the sentence, the people are like, all right, forget it. We're not even, I knew the banks were a bad idea. I knew accepting digital payments was a bad idea. You know what? Cash only. We're done. I'm not even going to give, I'm not even going to allow the government to, even continue, saying what they're going to say, before they even implement anything, before they even continue to think about what they're going to implement or do. We're just going to get rid of it. We're just going to get away from it. And we're just going to go back to cash only. We're going to go back to Pebbles if we have to. We'll trade tacos. Okay. We don't give a crap. Okay. We have ways out here to get away from that. And again, not just Mexico, many countries around the world are in a similar situation. So that's the thing. You know what I mean? When the people really do have the power, you get to really see what freedom looks like, okay? As opposed to when the government has the power. Yeah, no, there's absolutely no freedom at all. Again, you got absolutely no freedom in the USA, Canada, Europe. I mean, you can't even, come on. In England, you can't even say the wrong thing. They're going to put you in jail for like offending a fat girl or a fat guy, or whatever it is. So it is what it is. So, all right. Let me see. We got any more comments? I think that's it. All right. So shout out to everyone out there. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to have to wrap this bad boy up. We've already gone over an hour. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today, talking about this. And let's see how long this government shutdown continues. Again, in my estimation, I think it's going to continue for a while. I think this is going to be a talking point going into November, going through Thanksgiving. And again, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if November comes along and the government's still shut down and all kinds of people are, basically up in arms because they don't have their benefits. They don't got their food stamps. They don't got their money. And then things are going to really start to get out of control. And then, they'll come up with a solution, they'll hit the button, and then the solution will be there and then they'll save the day just in time for Thanksgiving. So, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But hey, at the end of the day, if you are outside of the country, it's a lot easier for you to see it play out and a lot more enjoyable. As I'm out here in the, in Mexico and I'm just watching the fireworks from far away. I can breathe easily knowing that I'm not really affected by it because I don't live there. I'm not in the middle of the eye of the hurricane like a lot of you guys are. But for anyone that's out there in the middle of the eye of the hurricane, that you guys are right in the middle of dealing with all this right now, and you have no way out or, no prospects of trying to get out anytime soon, I feel for you guys, man. I really do. And, I hope it all works out for the best. But, as Trump said, expect things to get worse before they get any better. And so far, well, he's whatchamacallit, he's followed through on that promise. All right. So it is what it is. So, all right, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you guys here on the next one. You already know how we do here. Every single Thursday we go live. You guys can check out my website, for more information and more, whatever. Also, don't forget, guys. I know a lot of you guys like to just listen to the podcast. I upload all of these videos. I upload all of these, live streams to Spotify. Okay, so for a lot of you guys that just want to listen to me, or you can watch me as well because I upload the video to Spotify. You guys can check it out there. So please, again, all the links are down below. All the links are on the site, so you can go on ahead and check it out. So for those of you guys that want an easier listening experience, you guys can just check me out on Spotify. But I think that's it. With that said, I mean, do we have anything else to cover? No. Let me see a few more comments. Jesse says, just crossed the border this week for a veterinary appointment and to breathe normal for 1 day. Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad that you were able to at least cross over for a bit. So shout out to you. And that's it, guys. So, all right, let me see. Let me find the fun song to end this. And I think that's it. I don't know what else. Hold on, I'm just trying to find. All right, we'll go with this. All right. So long story short, guys. Again, remember what I told you a while ago. Stay away. Oh, look. We got Jesse out there with a $10 super chat, trying to keep me staying here for a bit. Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. I really, really appreciate that. It's really, really nice of you. Much appreciated. Any and everything helps at this point. Thanks. So thank you very much. That's very nice of you. All right, hold on. Where's oh man, I got everything so discombobulated out here today. Yeah, because I've been doing some cleanup and whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, and I got everything all. Where's it? Where's my thing? There it is. All right, so thank you, Jesse. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, that was a bit loud. Hopefully, I didn't blow up your speakers, and if I did, I'll send you the $10 back so you can, purchase new speakers. All right, guys. All right, with all that said, guys, time to wrap it up. Love you guys. Appreciate it. See you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for all the love. And that's it. Have a wonderful, wonderful, great weekend. We're only a few weeks away from Halloweeny, and hope you guys you're ready for that and got your costumes ready. Okay, I'm still working on mine. All right, so you're dressed like a bum. What are you talking about? You're always dressed like a bum. All right, Lambo. All right, relax. All right. Love you guys. Peace out.
What do you do with the Bitcoin besides it just gather value?
Real estate developers in New York City, they're not buying the real estate because they want to live in it.
Let's put this other song here. I like this song.
What do you do with the Bitcoin besides it just gather value?
Real estate developers in New York City, they're not buying the real estate because they want to live in it.
But most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, we call them poor. We call them poor.
By the way, this is fiat. For those of you guys that don't know what fiat is, it's just cash. All right?
Fiat currency.
Doesn't matter what country you're in. This is paper. You can't even wipe your ass with this.
We call them poor. We call them poor.
So plan accordingly, okay? This is why, okay? They want everything digital, and they don't want you to have any. They don't want you to have any shiny rocks, okay? No gold or silver like this, okay?
We call them poor.
Don't be poor.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. The point is, if you have the superior asset, it's going up forever.
Bye, guys.
Forever.
Right. But we can all look Bitcoin sort of as
forevermore. People that use.
I am officially running for President of the United States. We need a leader. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. It can be wonderful if you have smart people that are stupid. The American dream is dead, 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 dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before. The American dream. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. Bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. And we will make America great again. And we will make America great again. We will make America great again. America great again. America great again. America great again. Great again.
Who is Jose Arteaga?
Jose Arteaga is a YouTube content creator with several channels focusing on different themes.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Thing sucks.
His main channels include travel vlogs and lifestyle content. On his travel channel, Jose Arteaga Travels.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Additionally, he runs a cooking channel and engages in other personal projects that highlight his diverse interests and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects, project, 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 project.